So just to be clear, you would get rid of all men.
How about SA just disappear? How about that?
Cool. Answer the actual question, though. You now have to answer.
You can't force someone to answer a question.
I guess I can't. Yeah, I can't force
What is
you
happening?
to do. How Muslim
are you?
You're basically writing your own religion inside of your religion.
You can keep, or you could just answer the question. Your refusal to just immediately knee-jerk, no, I'm not going to kill 3 billion people. You're a sexist. You know what's interesting is none of the women are calling you out on your fucking bull. Yeah, you just got to leave.
This is a wild one, a mix of religious contradictions, complete logical failings, and the elimination of half the world's population, complete with a meltdown and rage quit, because of course it does. It wouldn't be the Whatever podcast without that. I've taken the 6 hours of this podcast, isolated the most interesting parts, and condensed them for your pleasure. So like and subscribe, because if you think this is a rough watch, imagine having to sift through 6 hours of footage to curate this for your ass. Show some appreciation. But let's meet our cast of characters for this episode, because we have some fresh faces in the studio.
My name is Sara Tascha. I'm 29 years old and I'm a poet. I also have a master's in public administration from USC.
Sorry, could you repeat your age again? Sorry.
29.
29, got it. Mm-hmm. And master's from USC in what again?
Public administration.
Public administration, okay. And where are you from?
Reynoldsburg, Ohio is where I was born.
From Ohio. Got it. Okay.
Meet Sara Tascha. 2 first names, always a red flag, but don't worry, she's a poet and also very highly educated. So you know this is going to lead to many nuanced discussions and highly intelligent discourse, right? But we'll quickly see what her education has bought her and also what exactly she means by poetry, because spoiler alert, it's a little sus. But I just want to say that this is another nail in the coffin of the theory that Brian only has dumb OF girls on. I mean, he also has a lot of dumb OF girls on, admittedly, but this girl has her master's and like 3 degrees. It doesn't have an OF at all, just a completely non-haram Instagram. Now we'll go through her Instagram and I'm sure we'll also find out that the money she spent on tuition for 3 degrees is money well spent. But the point is, Brian is trying, okay? He's getting highly credentialed, well-respected women on the podcast, and I don't know if the quality of discourse really changes that much, but you decide for yourselves what that means about the modern education system.
My name's Jimbob. I go by Made by Jimbob. I'm a political cartoonist, and I do social commentary at Made by Jimbob on YouTube, and you can find me on Made by Jimbob on Instagram. I also brought Shameless Grift, Brian, 3 of my books. You can keep them. Yeah, they're for you.
I'll put them on my bookshelf.
Yeah, you will
here.
Giggle at those.
Awesome, thank you, man.
The first 2 volumes are sold out. There's 3 left. Yep.
Post-Truth Booster, Cultura ad Absurdum.
You're gonna love them.
Thank you. Appreciate the gift. That's very kind.
Mm-hmm.
Meet Jimbob, also 2 first names, still a red flag. Apparently he's a political cartoonist. Not necessarily my cup of tea, but I think he does a fair job here, as we'll see. Now here's a bit of a lore drop for those not obsessively watching the Whatever podcast. It seems like he might be Andrew's replacement. I mean, just look at the episode that happened a week later. That's old Jimbob discording in Andrew's spot. So let me know in the comments if you're happy with this replacement or like really angry with this. Crucible heads might be a bit unhappy, but I do think the Whatever podcast needs some fresh blood and all the non-creepy implications of that metaphor. And maybe Jimbob is our guy, okay? Let's give him a shot. But enough about Jimbob and his job. Back to Sara Tascha, who we discover is an aspiring divorcee and an aspiring Muslim.
You're Muslim, is that correct?
I am.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Okay. How long has it been your whole life that you're...
No, I reverted about 6 years ago.
Okay. Was your husband, is he Muslim?
He says he is.
What do you mean he says he is? What does that mean?
Because to be Muslim, you have to, have some character developments there, and they weren't there during our relationship.
I see. Okay. All right.
Remember that quote, because it will be very important. There's certain things Muslims have to do to be proper Muslims, especially in this girl's eyes, just like in any religion. And obviously that was important to her, given that's why she's divorcing him, which probably isn't like a normal thing to happen under Islamic law in the first place. But as you'll probably guess from her lack of niqab / burqa / hijab / kafiyah, if you're into that, no judgment, she plays a bit fast and loose with the Muslim label, okay? It's a little fluid, which for the record, kind of based, because I don't know, I'm kind of in a bind where I want everyone to take their religion very seriously, but I'm not sure if that applies equally to like every religion if you're picking up what I'm putting down. But Brian wastes no time getting to the real questions of her faith. Brian is out for blood, Muslim blood as it were. His words, not mine. Just kidding. Don't sue me, Brian. See, to steal man her, or steal Quran her, if you will, and as always, you must. I feel like because Islam is seen as the more serious religion, at least in the West, we hold it in higher standards. It's probably because the majority of girls that come on this show, and especially the ones that come on other websites, if you know what I mean, are nominally Christian. And they get pushback, but we all kind of assume that premarital sex is a given. I mean, it's current year. If you're a Christian without an OF, you're already like halfway into heaven and canonized as a freaking saint. We gotta take what we can get at this point, okay? We kind of just assume that people who call themselves Christians are doing all sorts of unholy acts of unmatrimony in the bedroom. And all we ask is that they don't film it and put it online. But with Muslims, we expect more, okay? I mean, Muslims in other countries are literally out there dying for their faith, sometimes inadvertently taking other people with them. Accidents happen. And so we can expect a degree of religious commitment from them, I should hope. And Jimbob, remember him? He's even less patient than I am. And he goes on to say, and I quote, "I'm going full out against the Muslim community." Just kidding. Don't sue me, Jimbob.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the Islam distinction for repentance or anything or confession, but but also isn't under the Islam view is it? Don't you hold the view that Allah dictates all?
What do you mean by that?
That Allah dictates everything. So it's like that even your sins would be ultimately dictated by God.
Judged, absolutely.
No, actually dictated, like
written
causal
you mean
chain, like determined.
Free will
Yeah.
versus yes, we believe that your life was already written before.
So
you
Allah
existed.
had you doing premarital sex already anyway. So he needs to you need to forgive him.
Astaghfirullah. No, I mean no. He has also written for me to ask for forgiveness. So while I'm sinning, it's written for me to be asking for.
So you don't forgive using your own free will then. It's actually just like a sort of like a tentacle of God. It's like he's wiggling, in other words, any movement or thought you have or action you have was already destined to happen and dictated and written by Allah.
Correct.
Including the worst of sins.
The worst of the worst.
This is the quickest trap I've seen someone fall into on this show, and is the biggest bullet to bite in the history of biting bullets. This is like biting the 950 JDJ, which I don't know if this girl could fit that into her mouth, although we do have video evidence that other panelists can. Ayo! But I digress. I don't think this was even a necessary concession. Now, full disclosure, I am not balls deep into Islamic jurisprudence and theology, as it were, okay? But from what I know about Islam and from what I've researched, I don't take predestination in the fatalistic sense where every single action and intention someone has is decided by Allah ahead of time. Foreknowledge is not the same as fatalism, and so humans have the agency to decide between doing right and wrong. And at least this is what every Islamic site I can find says. This is what Sunni Muslims believe. This is what Shia Muslims believe. And so if you're a Muslim watching this video, which I don't know, the whatever podcast is probably a bit haram, so maybe you should stop, but maybe I should stop too, so no judgment. So maybe there's 0 Muslims watching, but if there are any of you watching, please let me know in the comments below. Is there any version of Islam that actually believes what this girl is saying?
And I think that everyone struggles in their religions, and just in generally speaking. I think it's kind of odd that Islam is viewed as like, maybe it's because the women cover up, but like they're viewed at a higher standard. Like even in Christianity, you're supposed to cover up, and you don't see women walking around in like nun outfits. You know what I mean?
I totally agree.
Well, you shouldn't agree, because while I'm not balls deep into Islam, I am balls deep into Christianity. And besides vague passages on modesty in one chapter where Paul sounds off about wearing head coverings during prayer in church, which most theologians take to be cultural, there's not some general admonishment against showing dome as a Christian. But anyway, Sara Tascha stole what I said before about Muslims being held to a higher standard, which again, I do think is true. But look, Christian copium doesn't justify Islamic copium. And I'm not sure if what she's saying is actually a good argument or just pointing out that, yeah, Muslims get held to a higher standard. But look, if I can level with you, I don't actually think that Brian and Jimbob are actually holding her to a higher standard in the first place, as we'll see.
Wait, so I saw your Instagram. Can we pull up the Instagram? All right, there it is. Scroll down a little bit. Pause, scroll back. Whoa, up, scroll up. Okay, wait, so don't scroll back down yet, but that one in the bottom left. Well, okay, fuck it, scroll down. Bro, that's looking right down Main Street. Right down Main Street.
If that's where your eyes are going to go, then that's where your eyes are going to go. It's not my fault.
How do you reconcile Islam
That's crazy.
and just legs spread?
She already said Allah pre-wrote her Instagram account to do that.
Yeah, technically.
So
but also
Allah's showing it.
Also, I'd say
Wait,
that.
so how does like accountability exist within the religion then?
What do you mean? How does accountability? I think
Like,
the accountability is
What's
you.
what's the point of repentance or
Where's the commitment to the religion? If it's just a word, so it's just a word. So you can just say, I was born as Muslim, but then I want to do whatever I want to do. But why stick into that when you want to do this? Where's the line?
I think that people, or I would say that I am Muslim, I'm not Islam. So Islam is perfect and I'm not perfect. And I think that especially as someone who, as a woman who is going through divorce, I think I'm expressing my empowerment in a different way. And my Instagram did not look like that 9 months ago. I think I've overgone like a transformation of some sort.
Can you tell me though, because if you hold an Islam view, ultimately something like empowerment would have to be filtered through the Muslim view, right? So can you tell me how a picture like that is considered empowerment under Islam?
I don't think I hold the Islamic perspective because I'm not Islam, I'm a Muslim. So
that's like me saying I'm a Christian, but I don't hold to Christian doctrine.
No, that's not like you saying that. What I'm saying is I have a human way of thinking, and my human way of thinking is not as perfect as the Islamic law.
But so you're saying that's not empowerment?
No, I'm saying that my woman empowerment and how I view it is completely separate from Islam and how they view woman empowerment. Women empowerment through Islam is projected to be hijab, fully covered, abstaining from sex, you wait until you're married, all that.
Okay, separate from Islam, what do you think woman empowerment actually is, then, from your view?
In this day and age, I definitely think it's owning who you are. Owning who you are, owning your body, owning your right to choose.
Yes, she does mean what you think she means here. She's a pro-choice Muslim. That's the weirdest 3-word Islamic-themed phrase I've heard since Queers for Palestine. But there's a lot of oxymorons here, emphasis on the moron, from the rather sultry Instagram photos, remember fellas, it's your fault if your eyes are drawn there, you pervs, to the most concerning thing, which is her thinking that this is all somehow empowering while also holding to being a devout Muslim. And I think Jimbob is right to push her on exactly what she means because I'm not exactly sure if she knows what she means. Ultimately, this is what happens when you take two diametrically opposed, completely opposite ideas, in this case, Islam and feminism, and you try to marry them together. But who knows? Maybe like the husband she's still married to while having premarital sex with her new boyfriend, those things will eventually become divorced. Inshallah. But anyway, later on into the empowerment discussion, Jimbob kind of cooks a bit, so I want to share this line.
To be modest is actually the challenge. So that's why I think like empowerment, if empowerment for women means basically share your body and call it liberation, I think it's easy to do that. It's not, it doesn't take much. So that's why I'm like wondering how could someone call it empowerment if it's so easy to do?
Look, feminism is on its like 5th wave at this point, and sometimes I wonder if the 6th wave is just going to be a reversion back to the 1st wave, and it's going to be like the little snake that's eating its own tail kind of thing. Because yeah, the countercultural thing to do now is modesty, especially from a religious point of view. It does kind of seem like it's the more empowering thing to do, and it's certainly the harder thing to do. It's kind of like tattoos and premarital sex. When something becomes countercultural enough for a long enough time, it then becomes the dominant culture, and then the real countercultural thing is to not do those things. And maybe it just flips back and forth. I don't know. I'm not a sociologist, okay? But anyway, Sara Tascha continues to affirm her commitment to doctrinal Islam.
I think there's different levels of commitment in religion across the board. And it is currently a conversation on my Instagram. I don't hide that I'm Muslim. I say, alhamdulillah, astaghfirullah, I speak it in my regular everyday speech.
She's just speaking in tongues at this point. I don't know what's going on. I knew that was a thing in Pentecostal Christianity, but I didn't know about it in Islam. The more you know. But regardless, the discussion moves on, and this level of mind games is too much for even the other panelists, and this girl chimes in.
I think you're kind of picking and choosing what you want from the religion when you're actually 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
How so when I said my Instagram was 100% wrong?
Wait, say that again?
I said my Instagram and how it looks was 100% wrong in terms of Islamic rules.
Yeah,
so
but in
how
terms
am I
of your
picking
actions, you're still choosing to post those kind of pictures.
Because I have weaknesses as a human being. And that's how I'm going about portraying myself. But how I'm portraying myself is not Islamic, and it is wrong. I didn't pick and choose anything.
You're not making an action, though. You're not consciously like choosing to align yourself with the laws of your religion.
What do you mean?
It's
Like
in a
you're-
contradiction. She's saying it's also a contradiction. In one sentence, you're saying this is 100% wrong and I know it.
Yeah.
And you're calling yourself a Muslim. And then premise 2 is this is empowering. So both of those can't be true if you call yourself a Muslim.
That's incorrect, because I would pose the same question to Christians that drink excessively or do drugs but want to call themselves Christians. The fact of the matter is, religion, one of the reasons it exists is because we are all not perfect and we're striving to be perfect.
That's not a good analogy, though, because a Christian who's a drunkard, which means that he's incapable of fulfilling his duties, not to say someone getting drunk is unchristian. It's that the perpetuation of disabling yourself such that you can't fulfill your duties, that would be unchristian. But even in that example, that Christian it would only be analogous for you to say that if they said this is empowering.
You lost me a little bit.
Well, let me help find you, Sara Tascha. The distinction is that people can fall short of their ideals, but it's a different thing to call those shortcomings empowerment and reframe them as somehow being a good thing. By the way, this Asian girl that calls her out, she says in this podcast that she is dating someone who is, and I quote, kind of a white supremacist. Just kidding, don't sue me, Asian girl. Actually, not kidding, do sue me. She actually literally says exactly that.
There's been a bit of confusion as to, like, is he the Christian nationalist guy, or
Yeah.
I think originally maybe you misspoke. You said he was a white.
Well, those things go hand in hand, but like
Okay, got it.
usually, but Christian nationalists.
Got it. Okay.
So an Asian who's dating a white supremacist is calling you out for living a contradictory, inconsistent life. That's just gotta be a wake-up call, right?
Wake up. Wake up.
But that's not the only wake-up call that happens here.
Can I add something? I think everyone's just having a hard time because, like, you judged your ex-husband for not being a strong Muslim. So it's like, you know.
This girl is telling you that you're being nutty. You know what this girl's name is? Alien. Her name is Alien. When Alien and the mixed race white supremacist couple are both pointing out the problem, there's probably a problem.
It is inconsistent with Islam because my life story and my husband's life story and all the Muslims' life stories are not the Quran. It's not the Hadith. It's not Islamic law. Like, we have our own journeys.
So yeah, it's like you have a subjective, you're basically writing your own religion inside of your religion, right?
Allah wrote my life story inside of Islam.
Right. So then it's not inconsistent. It's a determinist view that says Allah, being the dictator of all, pointed and made it so before you even did it that you would do those pictures. So in a sense, a shortcut would be to say Allah posted those pictures, correct?
No, I posted those pictures.
No, but
that
through
Allah wrote.
Allah used you to post those pictures, right?
In some perspective, yeah, if you want to view it that way.
We're back to this now. The unintentional gaslighting of Sara Tascha by Jimbob. I told y'all the 2 first names was a red flag, okay? Because I think Jimbob is actually wrong about Islam, but Sara Tascha just assumed he's right because I don't know if she knows enough about Islam either, and now has just backed herself into an ever-deepening sea of contradictions to try to square that circle. And look, I know historically Muslims were goated at mathematics, but even they can't square the circle. Can Allah make a circle with a precise enough area that even he cannot construct a square with the same area using only a compass and straight edge? Do you get it? It's like can God make a rock so big that even he can't pick it up? It sounded better in my head. Okay, Jessica, edit that part out. Jessica, don't actually edit that part out. That was actually intentional. It was just a way for me to explain the joke. But do edit this part out. This is now me just talking to you, and I don't want them to see how the sausage is made, okay?
Would you say you have a personal relationship with God?
Absolutely. And I don't think my relationship with Allah should be judged by my Instagram.
Okay.
How should your relationship be judged by?
I actually think it's inappropriate for you to use a photo to say whether someone is close
my
to
question
God.
was then how should a person
I don't think you should judge.
it?
This could be a fine stance to take if you weren't adamant that your husband / soon-to-be ex-husband wasn't a lukewarm Muslim. You're judging him off of some standard, so is it fine to judge, or is it not fine to judge? And then we get to this doozy. You literally cannot make this stuff up.
I read the Bible. I did research on Christianity. I even took a class in college. And after I graduated, it just wasn't resonating with me. I felt really lost. And I was like, I need to find something to believe in. And I did research, and Islam resonated with me the most. It's a religion of logic.
So you convert
It's
it to...
it's a
is.
religion of logic, but there's a contradiction in
No,
it.
wait.
Look, I actually do think that logic is highly regarded in Islam, but Sara Tascha is just not doing a good job repping that, okay? This has to be one of the most confusing religious discussions I've witnessed, which is saying a lot. But don't worry, because it's actually not a contradiction as it turns out. Just listen, okay?
It's not a contradiction. You could have a perfect rule book of how you should go about living your life and do your best to strive by that perfect rule book. It's a guideline. Like,
Are you doing
I
your
would
best?
hope. In some ways, yes, absolutely.
How easy would it be to take all those photos down? That's not hard.
It's not hard, but it's connected to my poetry.
Wait,
Poetry.
It's poetry, baby. Want to see a poem? Want to see another poem? How about a tasteful haiku? Maybe a sonnet? Why do we have to reframe everything? We saw this with Brenna Black in a previous episode I made on this, where she says that her nudes were art, and now we see that the trasha that Sara Tascha is posting is called poetry. Can't a thirst trap ever just be a thirst trap? And if thirst traps are art, then I guess me scrolling dodgy websites is me being an art critic. I guess I'm a true haute couture connoisseur of the human form, and me jerking my gherkin, I guess, is just performance art. And I'm pretty well practiced at performance art.
Why don't you do the bold thing? And this is amazing that I'm advocating for this because poetry is cringe to me. Why don't you do the bold thing
Poetry is cringe to
and
you.
try to do poetry the traditional way and try to gain value from that as opposed to calling nudity poetry?
I didn't call nudity poetry.
Well, you did. You
I
said
said
it's
it was
a
a
type of-
part of my poetry. A part.
That's
you
the
guys
same
didn't even
thing.
play my poetry.
So what's the other part?
The poems.
Oh, the
He
poem.
didn't-
Oh, the titty pics come with poems.
Yeah.
Oh, I
they
didn't know
do.
that.
Oh, they come with poems, all right. In fact, let's experience it together. Not in that way, though.
Faded Scorpio, let my voice enchant you. Let the story cast a spell on you. These are stories about love, about betrayal, about sacrifice. In case you've never found peace of mind, in case you're still searching for that closure conversation, hoping to find some reconciliation, we were a period in time. So just grab a glass of wine and listen to these tales. Listen to how we failed.
If that's poetry, is there not other ways that you can say poetry through actions that aren't that, such that you're more consistent with Islam?
Sure.
So why wouldn't you do that if it's possible? You're not that weak, right? You're too weak to suppress your poetry? Like, is that what it is?
I think that I have a way that I want to express myself to the world, and I'm doing that.
Jimbob ain't buying it, Brian ain't buying it, and I'm certainly not buying it either, especially not in this economy. Have you seen the tariff rates in some of these Muslim majority countries? Look, Sara Tascha, you seem like a nice girl, but I gotta get my copium locally sourced and manufactured, okay?
But
I know
you
a
had a
lot.
mufti sitting here, sitting where I'm sitting. Hold on, we got to split this. Wait, okay, hold on. It's going crazy. Guys, okay. And he said, this is haram. This is in contravention of Islam. You got to take it down. You wouldn't do it.
No. You have to be.
Who then, at what level of somebody in the clergy or whatever it's called in Islam would have to tell you what you're doing is wrong? You have a cure. And when I say cure, you have a fix to the sin or the haram. What?
Yeah, do they have excommunication or do they just use a sword?
Whoa, easy there, Jimbob. Islam is a religion of peace, to be clear, but Jimbob's completely out of line comment aside, we move to a supercut of debauchery curated by Brian himself.
Okay, so play this. So this is you
Oh, that's a performance I just did.
in the Islamic faith. Is female on female, whatever this is. Is it halal?
No, it's not.
But then how you do? Why are you doing it? Wait, hold on. And then
Singing too, isn't it?
No, I was doing
I'm
my
okay with
poetry.
this. I don't mind the singing. But next, okay, play. This is you twerking. Hello.
Can you show this on YouTube?
I'm sure it's fine. Okay, next. This is you being served champagne in a rather, I guess that's a wrapper or something.
Yes.
Okay, next. And then this is your outfit, booty out, cheeks out. How Muslim?
Yeah.
Are you?
This is a whole collection of haram acts, from the lesbianic to the booty shaking to the alcohol. This is a veritable harem of the haram. This is cheeks out for Harambe. But it's poetry. It's all poetry. Sara Tascha shaking her tusha, poetry. Sara Tascha taking a splasha of vodkasha, still poetry. Sara Tascha directing our attention to her clitorasha, definitely poetry.
But you guys showed everything but my Ramadan story, and I'm very sad about that.
Oh, yeah, we should put it in contrast to the ass.
They didn't end up putting them side by side, but that's why you have me, so enjoy. I've added some music to really set the vibe for you.
So even if I'm not even.
The sheikh, the mufti.
The Ayatollah.
The Ayatollah, I don't know, whoever, comes down and is like, you gotta take down those titty pics. You gonna do it?
I'm not ready to do it.
I'm sorry for cutting in so soon, but I just wanted to put this on screen. Okay, back to the clip.
So if God spoke to you and was like, you need to take those Instagram posts down, would you take them down?
Yes.
Okay. All right. But like one of the top representatives of the faith, no. But if it was direct from God, then yes.
Well, this doesn't make sense because you believe in what's written in the Quran and the Hadiths, right?
I do.
Isn't that dictated and extrapolated through man?
I think that those rules are meant for everyone under the faith. If Allah spoke directly to me, I would think like by the time that happens, it would probably be my same sentiments.
Okay, but you don't consider that the books and the traditions of Islam throughout time is God speaking through men?
It absolutely is, but he's speaking to everyone. If I had a direct conversation from him, like it would be like
the specialist command, the specialist command of your behavior.
Again, I don't want to paint myself as some type of Islam expert here, but Muslims are distinct from Christians in that they think the Quran is the literal verbatim word of God, which might sound like what Christians believe, but it's different. Christians believe the Bible is the word of God, but that it was written by men who were inspired by God, and that's why it contains things like Paul telling Timothy to not forget his cloak. No Christian thinks that God dictated that part verbatim and told Paul to write it down. Conversely, with Islam, the Quran is literally the word of God. It was dictated by the angel Gabriel to Muhammad, praise be upon him, not a sponsor, word for word. So when this girl is asking Allah to directly tell her how to live her life, okay, done. By the way, this picture just wouldn't export for some reason. As a brave free speech warrior, I would certainly be fine showing a depiction of Muhammad, praise be upon him, still not a sponsor, on a public video, but it's a tech issue, so my hands are kind of tied.
I'm going to end this discussion with this. I'm a revert, and so in being a revert, there were things I was already struggling with prior to becoming Muslim.
I personally hate reavers, especially when they're dropped into my mineral line.
No!
The UN called, civilians aren't valid military targets. But anyway, we move away from the religious portion of this highlight reel into what causes things to go full Chernobyl stan, where Sara Tascha crosses out. The religious pushback sets her off, she gets herself tied up in all manners of Gordian knots, and now the pressure cooker is about to explode. That's maybe not the best analogy.
Ask everyone to rate their own looks on a scale of 1 to 10. You can't pick 7. I'm gonna start with you. Go ahead.
A 15.
Okay, so she says 10. I'll come back to you. What about you?
I'm not doing that.
You have to.
I'm not.
You have to.
I'm not doing it.
Why not?
Because I just think that's degrading.
How would it be degrading?
Because I'm about to rate myself a number.
Wait, it's degrading. Hold on.
What if people in your comments said you're a 10? Would you eliminate those comments because they're
That's what
degrading?
they think, but I'm not rating myself.
Wait, you let other people degrade you then?
I can't stop people from degrading me.
You can
Someone
delete
just
their
called me a
comments.
304. What am I supposed to do?
No, if someone on your account says you're a 10, right? Mm-hmm. That would be degrading, right?
It wouldn't be coming from me, but if they want to do that, I can't stop people from saying what they want to say.
Would you take it as a compliment?
Whatever indeed, Sara Tascha. But this is unfortunately the part of the video where half the people watching this are going to be a little mad at me. So get your keyboards out, do your little finger stretches. Okay, are you ready? I think Sara Tascha's answer was actually perfectly fine. There, I said it. When people say 10, yeah, I cringe, especially if it's a bit delulu. But if people don't want to answer because they think it commodifies their looks or objectifies them, or it just leads to them being in a shallow place, I think that's actually fine. I think it's perfectly acceptable to think that some questions just aren't worth answering. Like if you ask Brian to make a tier list of every Muslim majority country, I think it's fair if Brian said, I am a respecter of Islam. I will nary be cajoled into rank ordering them from the best to the worst. By the way, those were Brian's personal rankings he sent me when I DM'd him. Just kidding. Still don't sue me, Brian. The point is, it's fair to not want to answer every question, okay?
I just don't understand the connection there. It seems to be the case if you rate yourself it's degrading because you're putting a sort of value on an object, right? Mm-hmm. But you present your body as an object to the
object.
Yeah, but you present your body as an object.
I mean, you think of my body as an object.
No, you
so
know
that's why
the
you're saying
audience. You know who you're playing to. Don't play naive. When those guys look at your pictures and your ass and all that, right? They are looking at you not as a being, not as a Muslim, not as your personality. They're looking at your flesh and blood, right? And they're saying, that object, do I want that or not, right?
Okay, actually, I kind of forgot about the whole Instagram photo thing. Jimbob is actually kind of spot on here. She actually is the one objectifying herself, so it's weird to then say that attaching a number to it is the real objectifying thing and would somehow be more demeaning. So, okay, fine, I mildly walk back what I just said, so feel free to edit your comment to something more pleasant and, dare I say, complimentary. But then Jimbob gets a little lost in the sauce and starts comparing phalluses to butt cheeks. Look, it happens to the best of us.
Just like your ass is out, it just happens to be his penis. It's
No,
the same.
you
It's a
can't-
part of the body. No, it's a part of the body. How
But
is it
I'm
different?
not. I don't even know if I can't say this on stream. But
Just use a code.
If I am self gratifying myself online,
No.
you can't do that.
No. Who said you're doing anything about it? Getting an erection is a natural thing that happens. You're not doing anything.
No.
It's like yawning.
No, it's not like
Yeah,
yawning.
it is. It's like waking up and yawning.
Okay, but a normal person would hide their erection
A
immediately.
normal person, from my view, would hide their ass.
Oh, why are you looking at me? I don't have any helpful commentary for this analogy. I'll let you figure out if that makes sense or not.
All right, so are you a mother yet?
No, I'm not.
Do you want to be a mother?
I'm not answering that.
Oh my gosh. So okay.
Wait, hold on. What? Why would you not answer that?
Because if I say no, I don't want to be a mother, and Allah wrote for me to have a child, I'm going to feel bad.
That's
that this was
impossible. Well,
just
recorded.
answer the. What?
It's not impossible.
It's logically
There's
impossible,
a lot of
what you just
women
said.
that have children that did not want to have children.
Logically impossible what you said from your Muslim view. If Allah wrote that you're going to have kids, He just simply wrote that you're saying you don't want them right now. That's it. It doesn't change anything from your view.
But he didn't write that. He wrote for me to say, I don't know.
Yeah,
Or, I
that's
don't want to answer
fine.
that.
So if He wrote that,
You will make a great politician.
Okay, this is starting to numb my brain a bit, and yeah, I think you can see how the podcast will begin to degenerate from here. She seems committed to not answering any questions. I guess Allah freaking willed her to do that or whatever. The podcast moves to the segment they've been doing where they use AI to gender swap the panelists and ask them if they date the reverse gendered versions of themselves, and we get this exchange.
Would you date the male version of you?
Does he stimulate me mentally?
Probably.
Bro, this is like actually retarded. Can you just answer a question, please?
I'm serious. I don't know.
wait, you honestly don't go around like being a single person and you go, oh, I'm attracted to that person over there. Caught my eye. So everyone catches your eye equally? That doesn't make sense.
I didn't even say that. Just because it's nothing doesn't mean it's everything.
I'm just is that your poem? Is that a poem?
She doesn't
I just-
perceive.
Haiku,
Like-
some lame ass haiku, man. All right. So, would you date the male version of you?
What is wrong with you? I answered
What
the
is wrong
question.
with you?
I
You didn't
answered
answer-
the question already.
You said, I don't know.
That's the answer.
No, I said, does he stimulate me mentally?
Is he attractive to you? Do you think he's attractive?
Do you think he's physically attractive?
Isn't being attracted stimulated mentally?
That was my question.
Wait. How is
This is another way of
Yes. Do you think, how about this? Do you think that the male version of you is physically attractive? Sure.
That's
look,
the question.
when you're attracted to someone physically, isn't that a stimulation of your mind?
Whoa.
Do you find
Good
the
argument.
male version
No.
of yourself,
Yes, it
that
is.
picture, do you find that picture, male version of yourself attractive?
That wasn't the question. The question was, would I date that person?
Would you just talk to him?
Fine. Okay. I'm changing
you
the
talk to
question
him?
then. Would you? I'm changing the question then.
Acquaintances.
Do you find the male version of you is like attractive?
That's
I think someone in the world would find that picture.
Bro, I don't care what
attractive.
someone in the world. Are you
do you find
R-slurred?
that-
Yes, Brian, she is R-slurred. Allah willed her to be R-slurred, though, so blame him. But don't worry, God is all-powerful, so we can get a lot more R-slurred than this, and we're about to. We move into the age-old question of whether you'd rather meet a random bear in the forest or a random man.
Why do you pick bear, or why don't you pick man?
Listen, you're gonna think I'm bad faith for saying this, but I just adore animals more than anything.
Cool. What about you?
What about trees?
I've just been in too many SA situations, too many stories. I don't want to be on a path alone with another man.
Okay, so like sort of your own anecdotal experience, you've had a lot of bad experiences, so you pick a wild animal over a man.
Bear sub needs to.
If you had to attribute, like, let's say the likelihood of risk, or a risk percentage, if you had to say, okay, I think 50% of men would do this, or maybe 20% or 80%. If you had to put a percentage to it, what would it be?
A percentage of men that would
SA, yeah.
I don't know.
No.
Yeah, I know. Why don't you how about a guess?
I don't even want to say because that's just insulting to the male species. Like, I don't want to assume a percentage of men that would.
Do you think it's a majority of men?
I don't know.
Okay, do you
I would hope not.
Here, do you think it's a minority of men?
There's some sort of percentage, of course, but I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, just take a guess. Your guess doesn't have to be correct. It could just be a guess.
I don't want to guess because it could, if I guess too high, it can make me look bad. And if I guess too low, it can make me look bad. Like, I don't know.
But I think in a way she actually gave you the answer.
Did she, though?
She doesn't know.
What?
Yeah.
No, I didn't give you an
answer. When she
What's the
picked
answer?
the bear, she gave you the answer. That says how she thinks about it.
No, that's not giving it the
Wait, are you
answer.
saying-
It is because
Are you
you
saying
picked the
you're more-
bear.
No, that's what I'm more comfortable with. He asked me in generally saying, what's the
Yes.
percentage of all men
We got
that
a
would
champagne
SA?
bottle.
That's like a
This is
completely
crazy.
different question. I'm just not comfortable alone with men.
Wait, but you're comfortable alone with bears.
With the bear. That's the answer.
At least I won't end up in a SA. So there's not a possibility.
Well, it'll eat your
that-
face off, though. But like, that's the thing is, if you know, as long as you're not gonna get SA'd, the danger of a black bear, let's say, attacking you,
Why does the bear have to be black?
because they commit more of the attack.
That's actually true. I heard that even though black bears only make up 13% of the bear population, they're actually responsible for 50% of the bear attacks.
So you're saying that, let's switch up the scenario. Let's say at the zoo, there's a section, it's just a man at the zoo, right? And you're at the zoo alone, and you're like looking at all the animals from afar. You're telling me that you're more likely to get into the enclosure with the bear than the man? If you were to choose?
A zoo is a really bad example.
Why?
To use.
Yeah, just
because
engage with the hypothetical.
I don't know.
You don't know.
Bro, how do you... Yeah, if you had to pick one, do you get in the enclosure with the bear or with the man?
Seriously, I don't know.
You gotta use those poli-sci.
Bro,
those
what do you mean
poli-sci
you
degrees.
don't know? Here, do you need... How about this? I'm going to give you 10 seconds to figure it out. 1, 2...
I don't know. I did figure it out. That's my answer.
Yeah, okay, think about it, though. Here's the hypothetical. You can get it in one or the other, and you have to choose. Which do you get in? Here, watch. Let me make it simpler.
That's a bad, like, just question in
Why?
general.
No, it's testing for
it definitely
logic.
is.
Okay, look, this is the eternal hell that is the Whatever podcast. Look, that was a bad question. A zoo is not analogous to a forest for a number of different reasons. Public versus private. Is there security cameras or not? Does the guy think he can get away with it or not? But then this bad question becomes a good question retroactively when Sara Tascha refuses to answer it. So it's a weird gambit that the hosts play, and it's successful like 100% of the time, but it doesn't have to be. She could just say, oh, well, in that case, I would pick the man because I think the environment and situation are fundamentally different for these reasons, blah, 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 but she doesn't. So the question ends up actually being a good question, but only because she doesn't answer the question, and it's very confusing. But don't worry, I'm sure she'll answer the next question.
How about this? If you could, this is sort of related to the two women who answered bear. If you could get rid of all men, and this would mean that women would never experience SA from men again, would you do it?
I don't think it really matters because you can still get essayed by women too.
Yeah.
Listen, I've been there, so I'm just being
Okay, fine.
honest
How about
with you.
in this hypothetical, SA becomes impossible. So women couldn't SA you either, but they get to kick it. But all the men got to go.
What? I mean, of course, I would want to be in a world where no one gets
Okay.
SA'd.
So just to be clear, you would get rid of all men if it meant that another woman would never experience SA from men again.
If they were going to go anyway, I wouldn't just voluntarily be like, hey, all men need to.
No, you have the power. Like, you have a magic button. You press the magic button, all men disappear, and that means no woman will ever be essayed again.
How about SA just disappear?
Huh?
How about SA just disappear? How about that?
Cool. Answer the actual question, though.
Done.
Just
Done.
answer. Why can't you? Just answer the question. Okay, what's your answer?
I answered it already.
No, you didn't. Answer the question.
What is going on? Like, I feel like I'm saying words. I'm speaking English, right? I said, well, how about SA?
You didn't answer the question. Here, 2 + 2 = what?
Depends on the person.
You're actually.
I'm kidding. I'm
You're
just
actually. Okay.
Relax. Calm down.
No, just like, can you be good faith? Answer the question.
I did answer it. You just don't like my answer.
You said, I wish SA would go away. No, that's not an answer.
I said, how about SA just go away? If you're going to, imitate me, at least get the sentence correct.
It's a hot take.
Wow, great. Maybe war can go away too. I love these empty platitudes.
Hypothetical, you know what I mean?
Yours isn't bad.
What's
It's a hypothetical answer. So just let her.
Yeah, I did give a
answer.
hypothetical. I
Yeah.
answered your question with a hypothetical. I was like, how about SA just disappear?
Yeah, that's not an answer.
But it's a hypothetical answer.
Wow, I don't even know what the that means. Why don't you answer the actual question?
These women are just too much sometimes. What the fuck is a hypothetical answer? It's either an answer to Brian's hypothetical or not, and she isn't answering the hypothetical. She's just answering a question no one asked. She's hypothetically answering her own hypothetical. She's hypothetically inventing in her head, so maybe it is a hypothetical answer. Was I hypothetically predestined to become hypothetically R-slurred? But Brian is just not having as much fun as I'm having right now, which I am very confident that it is a lot more frustrating to host these episodes than it is to view them. But let's continue with Sara Tascha's Furiasha attitude toward the mustached members of our society, aka men.
Holy shit. Don't be pissy when we're going fucking late because y'all can't answer a question. Answer the question. This seems like an easy answer. Like, no, I wouldn't fucking eugenics the entire male species because like 1% of them are criminals and predators. Mm-hmm. But okay, your refusal to answer the question further points, I mean, you won't actually give an answer, but I'm just going to assume then that your refusal to just immediately knee-jerk, no, I'm not going to kill 3 billion people so that some people aren't victimized. Yeah, you're a sexist against men.
Why are you attacking me?
Why are you refusing to answer the question?
I'm just being myself. What you told me to be at the beginning of the show.
Annoying?
Then I'm annoying to you.
No, you're just annoying, period. Just, I don't understand what's so difficult here. Do you not understand the question? I can clarify. Would you like me to provide a clarification?
I understood the question perfectly.
Okay, repeat the question back to me.
You were asking me if I'd get rid of all men, if that meant that SA didn't exist anymore.
Yep.
Cool. I said what I said.
Yeah. Would you?
Why are we going in circles?
You said essay bad. I agree with you. Essay bad. Do I need to repeat the question again?
What?
Okay, there's 2 possible answers to the question.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I would get rid of men. No, I would not get rid of men.
And I answered it.
Which of the 2?
I just didn't answer it the way you wanted me to.
Yeah, it's not answering the question.
I thought this was a podcast and I could answer questions the way I like to answer questions.
Yeah, but there's an expectation that you participate in good faith.
I am participating.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. I've actually been contributing more to the conversation.
Oh, you've been contributing,
yeah.
But you haven't been actually contributing in good faith.
What? These are my answers. Now I'm lost in the sauce.
Okay.
I'm confused.
If a question is asked and buried in that question is 2 possible answers, and you refuse to pick one of those 2 possible answers, and you just say, well, a component of what is inside that question, I disagree with that specific thing, that's not an answer to the question.
It is actually presented as a simple question. The answer, I mean, to most people, I mean, anyone else want to answer the hypothetical? Do you eliminate an entire section of humanity because just to eliminate the minority of perpetrations that are done by that group, or do you not? I mean, to me, it's a simple not. It's not justified, right?
Yeah, you think it'd be a pretty simple answer for like a million different reasons. So I have to agree with Brian that she's just ass mad about being Islam bastard, about her religion. That pun works better in text. I'm sorry, just appreciate it visually, okay? And now she's just being stubborn, and I think Sara Tascha wants to sabotage the rest of the show.
Why is that hard to say no? I mean, it's a reasonable answer to say no. I wouldn't eliminate everybody.
Because then that's also implying that you're okay with a small percentage of the male species.
No, it's not.
No,
that's
logically
not.
not. No, logically
That's
it's
not
not.
it.
That's how I think. You're asking me.
3 degrees, remember? 3 degrees. I'm going back and forth on whether she's just confused or if she's just being bad faith. It's got to be a mix of both, because that seemed like a sincere answer. A sincerely wrong, illogical, nonsensical answer, yes, but a sincere answer nevertheless. That somehow her not deciding to end the life of every male on the planet is tantamount to her being down with SA? What amount of degrees would one need to fix an issue like this? Can Allah invent enough degrees and decree that they're conferred onto Sara Tascha so that she could properly answer a question? How's that for a theological paradox? Eat your heart out, Thomas Aquinas, you freaking nerd. But speaking of degrees, Brian and Jimbob both give it the old college try to really help Sara Tascha think rationally about the situation.
Do you think littering is bad?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think we should end the entire human species so we can stop littering?
Of course not, but littering is not SA.
Hold on,
How can you
hold
even
on, but
compare those? That's a
I'm
horrible
addressing your
comparison.
previous. Hold on, stop. I'm addressing your previous statement. So your previous statement was, if I choose to say no, I want to not eliminate all men. That means that I'm justifying this action of SA. Right, but you were very easily like you saying no. Hold on. Let me explain it. Now it's about to make sense. So I asked, would you eliminate all humans to get rid of? We all agree littering is a bad thing. Would you get rid of all humans to stop littering? No, you wouldn't. That doesn't mean that you're saying that littering is okay because you would preserve all of humans.
And look, even the other panelists start to try to help out too. And you know the strategy we have been reduced to here is deciding that if Sara Tascha can't answer a hypothetical question, perhaps she can answer a hypothetical question about a hypothetical question.
Context is very important to you. So what if the context was always, you have to decide or the world's going to end or something. Nukes are going to go off, but you have to decide. Would that context be helpful? Is there any context that would be like super helpful?
No.
Okay.
So how about this? There's a bullet, there's a gun to your head. If you don't decide, you get popped.
That's a good one.
If you don't give out your yes or no answer, they would.
If there was, if you had to.
Yeah.
So now are you asking if she would sacrifice herself?
That's basically
No.
what he's saying at
I'm
this
not
point.
not sacrifice herself to have that.
No, actually saving herself. That's actually saving herself. That's the opposite.
Not by actually enacting the thing necessarily, but simply by giving your opinion.
Yes.
In this
You're not-
hypothetical.
Okay, explain it to me.
In this hypothetical, you're asking her whether, gun to her head, right? Gun to her head. If she wants to kill off one group of people over the other, I think at this point I would just, if I was her, I would just be like, I would rather die. Because why are you giving me that?
But hold on.
That choice,
Just
that power.
No.
Exactly.
Oh my God, let me. Okay.
How did we
she
get
doesn't
here?
have. Hold on.
How did we get here?
Because he's attacking me for whatever reason.
She doesn't have the power to see said thing through. The gun to the head is simply, if you don't just state an answer, then you get the bullet.
Exactly.
So just to be clear, and you're not actually changing anything. Nothing actually happens. You're just giving your opinion on something.
Got it.
You would rather take a bullet to the dome than just say, then just answer a question.
I'm just confused.
Clearly.
But to be fair, I'm not sure if placing hypotheticals within new hypotheticals like Russian nesting dolls is really going to help her discover the answer to the first hypothetical question. Hypothetically, if you had a gun to your head, would you hypothetically choose to kill all men in order to stop SA? What if hypothetically the world was about to end unless you hypothetically had to decide if you would hypothetically have a gun to your head in order to hypothetically produce an opinion about the hypothetical where all men would die to stop SA? Does that help clear things up for you, Sara Tascha? Surely making this even more complicated will help you answer the question.
My life has to be at stake in this scenario.
Yeah, have you heard of a hypothetical?
Why am I getting all the hypotheticals?
The reason we got to the gun to the head is
Oh my
because it's
God,
the
bro.
only way we can get an answer from you.
That's not true.
Look, Jimbob, I agree that's how you got here, but you're more delusional than Sara Tascha if you think this is going to get an answer out of her. Spoiler alert, it does not.
Also, I feel like you're intentionally giving me more complicated questions and then getting more upset that I won't answer the more complicated
It's not
questions.
complicated.
Okay, that's kind of fair, and is what I said. If she can't answer a simple one, she ain't answering the complicated ones. It's just not going to happen. But Brian presses on, and we approach the limits of his patience very rapidly.
Okay, I'm gonna make it really simple for you. If you had to pick one or the other, which would it be?
One is like,
You know what's interesting is none of the women are calling you out on your fucking bullshit. This is
That's
what
a
I call the
little
sisterhood.
aggressive.
No woman here
I
is
did.
calling you out on your fucking ridiculous
She did a little
bullshit.
bit. She did.
I've been
I'll give her a
trying.
little bit.
I've been trying because it makes no sense to me. And I said that a couple
Literally
of times.
incoherent.
In the other panelist's defense, multiple of them have been trying to convince the girl to answer the question. It's just not working.
It's incoherent. I've refined the question where the answer you have to give is one or the other. So pick one.
I just wouldn't listen
Now
to
she's
former or
look.
latter.
You're trolling. You literally signed an agreement.
I'm not trolling at all.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not. This
I'm
is
asking-
really genuinely how I feel, and I actually
cooked.
feel like uncomfortable because I'm genuinely answering the questions that
You're not
the way that I
answering
want to answer
the
them.
question.
So I'm not trolling. This is genuinely how I feel. So I'm a bit thrown off right now, and I don't know if you're being serious
Here,
or not.
I'll repeat
Like,
it. So you have to pick one of the two.
You don't have to repeat it. Like, are you being serious?
Okay.
Like, what's
You have
happening
to,
right now?
You have to pick one of the two. Answer the question.
I did answer it already.
No, you didn't.
No, you just didn't like my answer. Are we being
No,
like,
cool. But you said, well, I wish essay. Your answer was, I wish essay just didn't exist. The question is, if you had to pick one of, okay, do I have to fucking draw this shit? Here.
Now Brian has switched to visual aids, which is very fitting because this conversation is giving me actual aids. Let's see if adding more and more senses to this situation will really help Sara Tascha understand this.
you already repeated it.
Multiple choice question.
Thought he was going to draw a bear.
You might need a Venn diagram.
Okay. So you know how there's two options here. Sometimes there's four, right? So I'm going to hold that up. Hold on, let me put it. All right, multiple choice question. My fucking penmanship is dog shit. You see how there's those four? I don't know. Here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then I'm going to just check mark 3. Right? Check mark 3. I can't just, in the middle, I can't just write 5. I can't just add in 5. That's what you're doing. It's a multiple choice question. Pick one.
Well, no, they don't help, and this is going nowhere, and the rage quit is imminent.
I'm so lost, and I'm
How
actually,
are you lost?
Because I'm participating in your podcast, and I thought I was adding great conversation, but instead you're attacking me.
Because you
and I don't
refuse
know
to
if you're
answer.
being serious or
You
not.
refuse to answer a question, and I think you're honestly trolling.
I'm not. Well, lucky I'm not trolling. I'm not trolling. I've been completely honest about who I am and my opinion since I got here.
Do you know what a multiple choice question is?
I do.
Okay, so there's two options, right? If you ever taken a multiple choice test?
Yes, I have.
Okay, can you just write in like a different answer?
No, you cannot.
Okay,
That's
so-
why I didn't answer it in the first place.
Yeah, but so you now have to answer.
You can't force someone to answer a question.
I guess I can't. Yeah, I can't force
What is
you
happening?
to do
You
it.
could have moved on
but
to
you
the-
didn't give a fucking answer, lady. You didn't give an answer. You're claiming you gave an answer, but you didn't.
And now things devolve fully into chaos. I'll just let this one ride.
You're the only one who couldn't answer the question. Why is that?
I mean, You're also not giving everyone the same questions to answer. You guys gave me so many hypotheticals.
We already answered that question. That's why. And
How
it
are
made
the-
sense because
I'm glad you think you make sense. That's perfectly fine. I think I make sense too. So
We said
well,
hell
of
no.
course you think, but
of
we
course
don't
you all think you make sense too. So everyone thinks they make
a
sense.
non-answer
Well,
is not an
there is
answer.
some-
I'm not
there
going to
are
accept.
some
Stop.
logics
Stop.
that you have to base your answers to that logic. You
Okay,
can't
that
say
was-
all
I
men are
used-
bad.
and I
That's
didn't say that.
bullshit, right? Straight up bullshit.
Didn't say
You
that.
can't say I would
Don't repeat
eliminate
things.
all men.
Don't say things I didn't say.
No, it's
I didn't
not-
say all men are bad.
A
You said
non-answer.
exactly that. You say
No, I didn't.
I would eliminate all men.
I didn't say that.
I said that.
What are you? Are you confused?
Here,
I didn't
just stop.
say that.
No,
Just-
that's exactly what's happening
just stop.
right now.
Just stop. Let me take care of this. A non-answer is not an answer. I gave you an A or a B question. Okay? I gave you, if you had to pick between two things, and you saying, I don't like this component of the question, you pick A or you pick B. If you had to pick one, which is it? If you had to pick one.
Like on a mass scale, if you think about it as like a mass scale.
I don't need
She
you guys to tell me. I
understands.
understand
Guys,
the
just
question.
allow silence until she answers.
What?
Don't just answer the question.
That's really weird. Just like
Yeah, what is happening right now? Like I thought that.
Yeah, you can keep, or you could just answer the question.
You're being extremely disrespectful.
You're being disrespectful.
I'm not being disrespectful.
If I
I've been
ask you a
contributing
question,
to all of the
if I ask you a
conversations. I've
question,
been nice to everyone.
no, you haven't. No,
yes,
you haven't.
I have.
You're fucking late. You're super rude. If we want to talk
What
about
was
rudeness,
super
you
rude?
were
I
super late.
apologize for being late. I
Didn't
drove from
apologize
LA to
me.
be
Didn't
here.
apologize to me. So, anyways,
I
do you
did.
wanna
When
just
I
answer
walked
the
in, I said,
question?
I'm so sorry that I was
That's
late.
cool. Do you want to answer the question?
And don't just say shit on the podcast for the sake of the podcast. I wasn't rude to you. I apologize to both you and
Yeah, cool. Do you want to answer the question?
I feel
What
uncomfortable
is this
now.
called? Obfuscation or whatever? Is this rage quit? Okay. Cool. I think that's a rage quit there. Well, hey, you know. Yeah, you got to leave. You just got to leave. You just got to leave.
I'm gonna leave.
Yeah, but you got to leave the studio. Yeah, you just got to leave. Nah. Adios.
Well, that just didn't need to end that way, and it's hard to figure out precisely what went wrong. Best guess is that she was mad about being called out for contradictions between her faith and her actions, and that spiraled into her not wanting to cooperate in any way. No hate to Sara Tascha, though, because it's all in good fun, and it looks like she might have gotten a little upset there in the end. And of course, no hate meant toward Islam at all, because again, a religion of peace. And to be clear, I have no ill will toward it, nor would I ever criticize it. And it's not because I'm afraid, because, well, there's nothing to be afraid of. I'm just out of recording space on my computer. Otherwise, I'd definitely criticize it. Oh no, the gigabytes are filling up. Quick, a shout out to our channel members, Kyle Braun and Michael von Lichtenstein. And oh, you can become a channel member too for only $1.99. Wow. Oh, my storage space, my hard drive is at maximum capacity.